Welcome to the Escape Room, a place where small business owners get together and talk about life and daily challenges. I'm your host Armin, and my today's guest is Vahe Shakhgeldyan, partner in BMS Law Group, a good friend, good relative, and a very interesting guy to have a conversation with. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
And the first question is, what do you guys do?
Okay, so BMS Law Group is a law group that handles primarily personal injury matters, all facets of personal injury. We're a small to mid-sized firm, and we've been at it for close to 13 years.
And you're in a team from the beginning?
I am. So the business actually was started by attorney Vahe Beloryan. Mm-hmm. He's our founding father, if you will. Mm-hmm. So the business was started by Vahe Beloryan in 2009, and I joined the ranks in 2010. And slowly we progressed into what is now a 3-partner firm. We have a total of 5 attorneys working for us. We have several paralegals, several legal assistants. And so it's a small to mid-sized firm, but I think we've done relatively well for ourselves over the course of the last decade.
I see. And how big is your team now?
So right now we employ 15 people.
That's good. And do you guys specialize in any fields, or it's like general law firm?
It's a general law firm, but we do concentrate heavily on personal injury, and that could be personal injury resulting from an auto accident, resulting from a slip and fall or a trip and fall. We handle dog bite cases. We handle all facets of personal injury, including catastrophic injuries and that sort of stuff. Outside of the personal injury realm, we also handle some labor law related matters, as well as lemon law, commonly known as breach of contract. Yeah. And things of that nature, but that's pretty much our bread and butter is personal injury.
Personal injury. And so it's 3 partners?
That's right. It's 3 partners, myself, Vahe Beloryan, and Manukyan.
Mm-hmm. And do you guys diversify departments, or you just jump on pretty much the task, whoever's first?
So the firm is divided into 2 sections, really. It's pre-litigation and litigation. So my partner, Vahe Manukyan, oversees the pre-litigation department. Mm-hmm. So that's basically when a case comes to the firm and there's no lawsuit pending, he's the one that essentially handles the case up until the point where the case needs to be litigated. In other words, we need to file a lawsuit, and that's when that case then transitions into our department. Of course, the litigation department is headed by Vahe Beloryan, who handles also pretty much all the negotiations in the office as well.
I see. And when it comes to pretty much the business side of the company, how do you guys have someone that's running the actual business, not dealing with the courts, not dealing with clients and customers, but running a business, meaning communications with staff, meetings, all that stuff? Do you guys diversify that, or
it's an interesting question, but basically we 3 handle all aspects of the business, including the day-to-day operations, including hiring and training, including payroll, things of that nature, financing. So we each have our hands in all facets of the business. When you're dealing with a small to mid-sized firm like we are, that's not really a difficult thing to to handle. Obviously, if we're employing over 50 or 100 people, then that does become a little cumbersome. So you can't expect to be hands-on in every facet of the business. But as far as we're concerned, anything that, as far as the day-to-day operations are concerned, we sort of just share in the responsibility, all 3 of us.
And when it comes, I mean, since the law firm is fighting on different fronts at the same time, you got to deal with the financial part, you got to deal with customer service, you got to deal with courts, with other law firms. What's the toughest job? Which part is the one that you pretty much hate to do it, but you got to do it?
It's, again, a very interesting question. I think there's no easy way of saying this. Financially, there are difficulties that obviously you need to overcome. As far as prepping the case for trial, I would say that the most challenging part of our job is prepping a case for trial. I think the reason that is there's a lot of deadlines involved when you're litigating a case, but even more so when you're actually getting the case ready for trial. When it gets to that point, it's all hands on deck. In other words, there are subpoenas that need to be served. There's witnesses that need to be prepped. There's depositions that need to be taken of expert witnesses. There's scheduling of expert testimony. There's so many different aspects. There's development of the trial binders. There's so much happening in such a short amount of time that it has to be all hands on deck. And it does get pretty crazy when we are dealing with a trial or we're prepping for a trial. And of course, that also matters the magnitude of the case, right? So if you're dealing with a case that's, one party versus another and there's not too many witnesses involved, clearly the prep time for those type of cases is relatively small.
Simple paperwork probably.
Precisely, yeah. But the funny thing is, if you have a case, and we actually have a case, I can't really comment on the actual case itself, but this case, we have well over 30 plus witnesses that are going to be testifying. And this is geared to be at least a 3-week trial. You can only imagine the amount of work that goes into actually prepping that type of a case versus prepping a case that's a simple auto accident. Again, you got a plaintiff and a defendant and maybe a doctor on either side. So, yeah, I would say the most challenging part of the job is gearing a case for trial. And our firm, we are actually known in the legal community as a firm that litigates cases. When we take a case on, we take it on from inception all the way to the very end. In fact, we work with a lot of attorney firms who don't litigate cases, who actually refer cases to us to litigate. So we are a very heavy litigious firm. We litigate. That's pretty much our expertise, comes in the litigation aspect of it. It's always easier to settle a case outside of court, right? But sometimes it doesn't happen. You got insurance companies who are very unrealistic, who don't, value a case appropriately. So then that essentially forces us to litigate, right? And then, of course, you have situations where you have a case that is hotly disputed, liability is contested. And so there's no way that you can come to any terms with the insurance company. So it necessarily needs to be litigated. But I'd say that the litigation process is pretty intense, when it comes down to it. What's interesting is the last couple of years, the dynamics of the industry changed because of COVID. I think everybody was equally affected during COVID, and we were no exception. Court systems were completely shut down for months on end. There was obviously certain mandates in place. So we found ourselves not litigating, not trying cases in front of a jury. In fact, I just had my first jury trial post-COVID 2 weeks ago. But it was like 2 years had gone by, and it was very difficult in the sense that, you wanted to take a case to a trial, but you couldn't because the courts are closed or there's no jury trials or whatever the case. So it was very, very difficult. But what we did see in that instance, we saw a lot of cases actually settling through mediation, which I think is one of the most effective tools in our field. I think mediation is a very effective settlement tool. It's basically your last chance at settling a case, even after litigating it for so long, your last chance at settling a case before the case actually heads to a jury trial, right? Because that's basically saying, we'll give it one last chance. And it's been very effective for us. We've settled hundreds of cases in the last 2 years alone. We've settled over 100 cases just at mediation alone. So it's definitely been challenging the last couple of years, but we're finding ourselves back into the groove now, and yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff.
You pretty much answered almost fully to my next question. Why should I choose you? Because you guys litigate, but I mean, every company is trying to have few ace cards to say that's why I'm different. That's why you should choose me. So every company is pretty much trying to have an ace card in his pocket to say that that's why we're different. That's why you should choose us. What else you guys think that you guys do different, and why? I mean, you're a pretty successful company that you survived over 10 years, over a decade. That says that you guys are strong in marketplace. But what else you're trying to do different?
You're asking what sets us apart from our competition? Is that sort of where we're... All right, well, I can always...
As a customer, why should they choose you?
Well, as a punchline, I'm not going to go all Larry H. Parker on you and say, I'll fight for you, you know, but that's... It's implied that, of course, we'll fight. And people need to understand, as a plaintiff's attorney, it is in our best interest, it is in everybody's best interest that we do a damn well good job on your case, because... our number one goal, of course, is to deliver for the client. And I can't say this enough, but, we see a lot of devastating injuries that happen from car accidents, that happen from slip and falls and things of that nature. So your number one goal is to make sure that your client is well taken care of. That could be in the form of making sure that they get the appropriate medical treatment. That could be in the form of making sure that their losses are, any losses that they have, those are recuperated, and just maximizing their recovery. I mean, I think any plaintiff's attorney out there in the field should make that as a number one priority. It's never about the attorney. It's always about the client. And, we have, I think, a proven track record of making sure that our clients recover the absolute maximum that they can under the circumstances. It's very difficult to pinpoint whether or not... So basically, an attorney, a plaintiff's attorney, has to have his or her client's best interest at heart. So as long as you're delivering for that client, as long as you're making sure that that client receives the best attention, care, at the end of the day, that's the gratifying aspect of this job. We want to make sure that we're taking care of the client. And not every client's needs are identical to another client's needs. So we have to make sure that we're catering specifically to that client's needs. I think we've been very successful with negotiations. Hike Beloryan, I'm not just saying this because the guy's my partner, but I over the many years that I've been in this industry, I'd have to say that I've heard a lot of negotiations. I've partaken in a lot of mediations, and the guy has a sheer talent in settlement. I mean, to him it comes second nature, right? And not everybody's able to do that. So I think as a powerhouse negotiator, I think Hike definitely is at a different level than most all that I've worked with in the past. Our litigation team is very organized in the sense that we have specific departments that handle specific tasks. So we want to make sure that all the bases are covered. I personally do a lot of trial advocacy. So when we take cases to trial, it's primarily myself and Hike that take these cases to trial. So we actually do the trial, jury trial or bench trial, whatever that may be. And I think it's really important not to think that, only you can handle it all. No, it's important to rely upon your partners, your teammates, just to, again, it goes to the concept of delivering for the client. So if it means working in tandem with other attorneys, in the firm, making sure that we get, what we need to. I think that's what, delivers a successful result. I think it's very important that, the client leaves. At the end of the day, the client leaves happy and content. I mean, I can't tell you how important that is, because to hear from a client, thank you so much for doing, the best that you can, even though that best might not be
the one that you were expecting,
the one that I was expecting, as long as the client understands and really truly feels that we did our absolute best, and they do. Okay, they do. Mm-hmm. That's really that's the gratification that I'm looking for. But
when you enter a business, first year or 2 years, your main challenge is to survive in marketplace, and then you grow, you beat the competition. You get to a point that you are big enough to feel the stability financially, but you're getting to a point that you need to run a business. Doesn't matter which field are you in. Have you ever had that feeling that you don't have enough knowledge to run a business? Not the law part of it, the organization, creating a system. To clarify, my question is, will you be able to run your business remotely without your presence for 6 months? Do you have a system set up that you don't need to be there?
Very interesting, because the law practice, yes and no. And I'll tell you why that is. While I can definitely depend on my legal assistants to process paperwork and things of that sort, or rely upon my associates to draft motions, or even, submit oppositions to certain motions. There comes a time when you, as an attorney, as the partner in the firm, and when I say me, I mean myself, Haik, or Ashok. Yeah. There comes a time where you have to be hands-on. You can work remotely. Absolutely. In fact, we saw that during COVID. I mean, a lot of us did work remotely. Not as much as some of the other companies out there. We did do a little bit of remote work, and some of these depositions that happen nowadays, it's all remote. So to answer your question, yes, you can work remotely, meaning away from the office, but to completely leave the office for 6 months and expect for it to work out the way it would, I would say not necessarily. And that's because that goes to my initial statement where we want to make sure that we deliver the best for our clients. And sometimes that client wants to hear from you, and only you. While your assistants might do a great job, sometimes they just want to hear from you. And if you're away for 6 months, and that client doesn't have that ability to actually speak to you, then that might work against you. So it's not a type of business that I would say that you can completely walk away from. Obviously, we want to get to a point where we are, sufficiently staffed to make sure that all aspects of the business is taken care of. But, in our field, at least in our particular office, I know that it's important, to be somehow integrated with the entire process, and to just walk away from that for 6 months, I think that would not be the most ideal plan. But we do, we take vacations, here and there, so we do end up, relaxing. Obviously, no, we're not robots, so we do end up taking some time off, but probably not for 6 months. I don't think that's ever happened.
And what's the company goal for next year, 5 years, and 10 years? How big do you guys want to grow? Like, do you want to get to nationwide level or statewide level, or this is enough as long as it's stable?
obviously, the more we grow, the more jobs we create. So clearly, it would be in our best interest to grow because we're creating more jobs and we're actually helping the economy doing so, right? There's a lot of people who are unemployed nowadays. And so if, if they had the ability to learn the trade and get into this line of work, even not as an attorney, but even as a paralegal or a legal assistant, clearly that's within the horizon. I mean, we do want to grow. That's not to necessarily say that we want to go nationwide, but we definitely do have prospects of growing the business, adding to the portfolio of attorneys that we have working for us, and the paralegals and legal assistants. So yeah, I think it's important to grow, and just like in any business, you always want to grow, even if it's by a small margin, because by growing, that just means that you're productive, right? If I add one employee in the next 6 months versus adding 10, obviously there's a difference, but hey, adding one employee is still adding one employee, right? That means I've been productive enough to add one employee. So in the next year, I think it's important to maintain the status quo because we have a lot of work. I mean, we definitely have a lot of work. So for sure, it's definitely within the prospects of in the next year to grow at least to maybe a staff of 20. In the next 5 years, of course, yeah, I'd like to see ourselves opening up a couple of satellite offices, and maybe not necessarily in California. We're actually thinking of expanding into different states. We're thinking of expanding into Nevada, Texas, Arizona, and potentially even Florida and New York. But that's quite a ways away. But certainly opening up some satellite offices in Nevada and in Texas is definitely within the 5-year mark, I would say.
That's awesome. And there is a new trend, especially in European countries, of working less and enjoying life more. How do you look at that? I mean, there's like all Scandinavian countries pretty much are switching towards working 4 days a week and getting paid for 5, or working 6-hour days instead of 8-hour days. In capitalistic countries as United States, especially in California, I mean, there's a funny saying, to survive in LA, you gotta have 2 full-time jobs and do a little bit of fraud to be able to afford to live in LA. Do you think that it's actually possible to switch to that style in LA, or for us, or would you do it?
Well, I would love to do it because of the simple fact that you actually get to relax a little bit more. I don't think it comes as any surprise that being an attorney, especially one, in California, in Los Angeles, I mean, this is a cutthroat market, right? It's, you have to compete, and you have to make sure that you're always on top of, the competition. And you mentioned it just right. I mean, in a capitalistic country such as the U.S., working less hours and it works directly against that concept of
being productive.
Well, let me put it this way: you can definitely be productive even if you're working 4 days, but whether or not you're going to be able to stay ahead of the competition, that's a different story. And that's something that I think it's industry based. Like, if you're running a firm, you can try cutting your, 1 day out, and just, let's say Wednesdays nobody works, right? And Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, the work days, you can try doing that. But then you're going to have to try to see how that works with your productivity level. So if your productivity level goes down, then that means working 4 days out of 5 is definitely, at least not for your particular case, the best way to go. adversely, it can actually go the other way, right? You could work 4 days and you can actually become more productive. I don't know how that can possibly be, but I guess you would have to try it out, right? If you're a doctor and you're working 5 days a week as opposed to 4 days a week, I mean, I guess if you're running a solo practice, right? If you're running a solo practice, you're not working at the hospital, you could technically cut a day out, right? And say, I'm only seeing patients Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. I'm not working Wednesdays. Sure, you could do that. All that's going to do is it's actually going to give you a bit more time, more rest, a bit more time to enjoy life outside of the office or the clinic. But how that will work as far as the productivity level of your business, you would have to try that out to see if that's a fit for you. It may or may not be. So while in one hand, I like the idea of working 4 days out of 5 because you get to rest a little bit more, it may not necessarily be a perfect fit for our industry.
So in the field that you guys are operating, do you have a feeling that there is no racial equality?
Do I have a feeling that there's no racial equality?
Yeah. Like more male attorneys and judges than versus female, or is there? Do you feel?
Oh, gender equality.
Gender. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Gender, not racial. I'm sorry.
That may have been the case 20, 30 years ago, but definitely not today.
So you have a trend. You can tell that the trend is towards like balancing out.
I would say so because there's a ton of new judges. Well, not even new. I mean, there's a ton of judges who are female versus male. Some new assignments that happen are female versus. I mean, I would say, and let's just look at the bar passage rate, right? Let's look at the California State bar passage rate. I don't, the amount of people that do end up taking the bar and passing the bar. I think it's relatively equal. It's fair. I mean, if more men are taking the bar exam and passing the exam versus less females, then clearly the gap is widened. But if nowadays I do see a lot of equality. I mean, I see a lot of females actually going to law school and persevering and actually passing the bar. We had 2 assistants, and both of whom were females, and they actually went through the LLM program at Pepperdine, and I believe they're studying to sit for the bar now. So, and all the while, we haven't had any male assistants doing the same. So in our case, we actually had more females who actually went through that process than males. So I am definitely seeing a balance as far as the equality is concerned in the field.
When it comes to financial stability, what is your personal goal? At which level you want to get to say, what, maybe I should slow down, or maybe do you want to plan your retirement, or you don't want to retire at all?
I definitely want to plan my retirement. I think at the level and the pace that I'm going at, I don't know how much longer I have in this business. Obviously, I'm going to push myself to be in as long as that I possibly can. But it is a very high stress environment. I mean, the type of business that we're in, unfortunately, an attorney never sleeps. In fact, when you sleep, you're having nightmares, or not nightmares, but you're having thoughts about statute of limitations on cases and this. So you really never truly get a good night rest because you're always constantly thinking. Has there been a time in my career where I've thought about it and said, I'm done? I'm like, sure, that has happened. But it's only natural that happens, right? Because when you're thinking about so much, you get emotionally drained, right? You get mentally drained. So My goal, I would say, I'd like to see myself retired in the next 10 years.
And retire, by saying retired, how do you see the retirement? Like laying on a beach and drinking pina colada, or doing something else for your fun?
If I'm drinking, and I'm drinking a Moscow Mule, I'm not drinking no pina colada.
That was the question I was about to ask.
I enjoy myself a Moscow Mule here or there, but not necessarily just drinking a pina colada or Moscow Mule on the beach. I'm not over. I like to travel a lot. So retirement for me is not just, obviously, yes, sitting on a beach would definitely fit somewhere in that category, but it certainly wouldn't be the only thing that I'm doing, right? I love to travel. I want to go visit as many different countries as I possibly can, just see the world. I mean, God gave us a pair of eyes, right?
That's all we have.
And so the more you see, I think, the more gratification you're going to get. Unfortunately, travel is so difficult, especially in the States, because we're so far away from everybody, right? We're far away from East Asia. We're far away from Europe. It's at least a, 10, 12-hour flight to get anywhere here. Obviously, I'm Armenian, and so I love going back home. I definitely would travel back home. I'm planning on going to Armenia this year, actually, in a couple of months. So I would see my retirement as my opportunity to be able to travel and just enjoy what the world has to offer. Sometimes beaches, but
so pretty much you just want to have financial aspect covered to a level that you can afford to travel and have your pocket expenses, not to become a billionaire and change.
Becoming a billionaire is certainly not the easiest thing. In fact, not too many people will ever make it there in their entire lives, right? Sometimes you really have to be lucky. It's like playing poker. It's like playing the WSOP and coming up on top. You don't have to be the best poker player to win the WSOP, but you sure as heck have to be able to catch a couple of good cards. You have to get lucky at least 10, 20 times, right? Meaning you got to go all in on a hand and just brace yourself to make sure that you actually come up on top, because just like that, you lose it all. But so being a billionaire, unless you're born into money, right, which I'm not, being a billionaire definitely is not any easy feat. So to say I want to be a billionaire, of course, I mean, that's, money does help with a lot of different things in life. It doesn't help with everything, but it does help with a lot of different things in life. And it's not to say, oh, I want to be a billionaire just to have that status of, hey, I'm a billionaire. No, there's so many different things that are tied into that. But I think for me, the important thing is to just live life and enjoy it as best as you can, even if you're never a billionaire. I want to be able to develop a system for myself to have as much passive income as I possibly can, so that I can, comfortably travel and do it. I think developing passive income is very important. Right now, what I'm in is active income. I'm an attorney. I work. I make my money, and I live, right? But I definitely want to get to the level of developing enough passive income where I can comfortably say, hey, if I want to work as an attorney, I'll work. And if I want to take 6 months off, I can afford to take 6 months off without any issue. So I think has a lot to do with it, financial planning.
Well, to ask you if you read books, it's the wrong question. So I'm sure you're in a field that you have to, but do you have enough time to read books for your just free time and pleasure?
Reading books, not so much, but I actually took up audiobooks from you. And if you remember, we started sharing a lot of audiobooks, and I think, Audible or whatever other sources, I think that's a really good way of still getting the information in by not being able to physically read. realize that my eyesight has gotten worse and worse over the years, so it's a little difficult for me to actually sit there and read a book. Yeah. I mean, being an attorney and being in front of a computer for 7, 8, 9 hours a day, I mean, it does take a toll on you. So while I don't physically read as much as I would like to, I definitely take advantage of audiobooks, and I think...
that's my favorite way as well. And what's your favorite book, if you can name one?
I can't. Unfortunately, I can't.
Way too many of them.
Yeah, it's. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff out there. Yeah, it's really, really tough to name a good book right now. I mean, because there are a few.
Do you like to? What's your favorite way of spending free time? Whenever you get chance, like working out, spending time with family, with friends, with relatives.
All of the above. You know, all of the above. I don't have one specific activity that I like to do more than the other. Some activities I want to do that I do for myself, whether that's for my health or for my well-being, those are for me. So if that's, you know, going boxing or maybe going to the gym and, you know, lifting some weights. I mean, I do that for myself. That's like personal time for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy that, you know, but I also enjoy the rest of the stuff. I enjoy spending time with family. I enjoy spending time with my wife. You know, my sister. I enjoy time, you know, with my nephews, my nieces, friends. I love going to social gatherings. Just being around people, just socializing, I think it's really important. I don't like, I should say, I do like being alone sometimes, right?
That's what I was about to ask.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think a sane individual needs some alone time, right? You got to just, even away from the wife, even away from family or whatever, sometimes you just need time on your own just to, maybe you don't want to do anything other than just to just sit there, right? So, I do enjoy some alone time, and I think it's important because it allows you to reflect on your life, where you've, you know, what you've accomplished and stuff like that. But then that can't always happen, right? You always have to have other activities in life, right? Well.
So, would you suggest your child to choose your profession?
Would I suggest my child?
Yeah, would you want to see your child becoming an attorney and
I
fighting?
see what you're saying. Oh man, if somebody were to ask me 10 years ago, you know, do you have a different career in mind? I probably would have said yeah. I don't know. You know, it would make me proud because, again, being an attorney is, I think, you know, it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of study. It takes a lot of perseverance to get to, you know, that level. And just the same thing with a doctor or a dentist or any profession of that sort, right? So I would commend them in choosing a field that actually requires them to study and, you know, apply themselves. Would I be disappointed if they don't? No, definitely not. I mean, everybody's different. I mean,
so with the current technology, I mean, all fields are changing a lot. And do you think, or can you imagine that the legal the law and being an attorney is one of the professions that can be taken away by artificial intelligence in any time future?
That's such a wide... I'll just object to that as vague and ambiguous. I'm kidding.
Let me ask you why. Well, let me tell you why I'm asking that question. I pretty much ask all my guests.
That was the corniest, like, lawyer joke I could throw out there.
I didn't catch that at the beginning. So the reason I'm asking is most of the professions that now exist are not going to be around in about 20-25 years. So by the time your child becomes an adult and graduates university, he might be jobless. So as a parent, I keep asking my hosts and I keep researching, what kind of suggestion to give to my child, like what to choose to be useful and needed. So that's the reason I'm asking is do you think that the law, the understanding of lawyer is going to be around and as strong as now in 20 years?
You know, I'm going to say yeah. And I'll tell you why. Because there are certain aspects of the legal field you cannot replace with robots. I mean, naturally, you can probably replace almost everything with robotic technology. We have a lot of like there's new programs that have developed and they've just been developing and just they're fine-tuning it to make the system a lot more automated. I'll give you an example. Back in the day, when you had to research on the law, and you had to research decisions, you would physically have to open up the book, you would physically have to read that case, and just spend hours, and if not hours, days on finding case law that is applicable to your whatever situation you're dealing with. Now, you know, companies like LexisNexis and Westlaw or whatever, they have developed such algorithms, like programs, that literally it does everything for you. You'll write in there, like, I want to find a case law for premises liability, and you put like keywords in there: premises liability, fractured shoulder or knee, fractured leg, whatever, California, and then you'll give it some keywords. Mm-hmm. It'll literally within seconds find you as close as possible relevant case law involving premises liability, fractured knee in California within seconds. And so that pretty much eliminates that entire time that you had to spend otherwise reading through a book. So yes, a lot of the stuff has become automated. So technology has already worked its way into the legal field. Where I feel that the legal field will still survive is the computer might not necessarily be able to make a compelling argument in your place. See, sometimes our arguments in court, they involve emotions. Sometimes they involve different strategies. It's not just simply just reading text. Sometimes you have to convey your message in a way for the judge to say, you know what, I see where you're coming from. That's why in our field, it's all about interpretation. You have a text, right? You have the law. You have the legislative intent behind that law. You might read it differently than I might read it. You might argue it from one end, I might argue it from another. So the question is, can a computer or can AI be able to do that? And that's components of emotion. That's components of just being able to shoot from your hip real quick, make an argument. Some of these things may not be able to be replaced by computer technology. So and it takes the fun out of the work, right? I mean, part of my job is obviously to make a compelling argument in court, in front of a jury, to sway a jury to be able to understand why my reasoning is right versus the other side who says, no, their reasoning is right. So I don't know if technology could ever replace something like that.
So let's assume there's going to be another Elon Musk and he's going to create new car or new program. And the same way as every single Tesla sends a report how the driver avoided this collision, that collision, stopped, pulled over, and all that data collects at the end of the day. And based on that, now there's a lot of computer engineers are trying to come up with self-driving machine that it's going to beat the actual driver in quality, in safety. And we're all hoping that it's going to become a normal for us. So let's assume that there's another guy that was able to collect all known and registered cases. Mm-hmm. And he was able to upload into a program in the computer how it started, what was the crime, what was the beginning, and what was the end judgment. and collect enough statistics to pretty much shoot out with 99% accuracy the decision of the judge. Do you think that it's actually plausible to replace a judge with a computer? It's a lot of imagination, but
there's definitely a lot of imagination. All right. So if I understand you correct, well, look, what is the job of a judge? A judge pretty much interprets the law, right? I mean, it applies the law. The judge applies the law to the facts, right?
Yes.
So, are you telling me that two judges would be able to see the same outcome from a particular argument? I mean, is that if that's what you're telling me, then your analysis makes sense, right? Because if both judges can see the same outcome, then your algorithm makes sense. Because they can technically. But is it possible that two judges hearing the same argument will have a different outcome?
Well, with some 90% accuracy, with having enough evidence collected, they should come up with pretty much close outcome, or not.
Again, we are. I know, I'm having fun with this, but you know, the jurisprudence that we have, the system that we have in place. First of all, judges don't make all the decisions, right? That's why you have a jury of your peers, right? And jury are basically 12, well, in most cases, 12 complete strangers who have absolutely no bias or you know, no interest in that particular case, other than the fact that they've been summoned to jury duty and they're there to sit and hear the law. I mean, not the law. I'm sorry. They're there to be instructed on the law by the judge and listen to all the evidence that comes in by the attorneys, and then basically reach a decision. So, if a decision is being reached by a jury, the judge, unless he finds some sort of a gross misapplication of the law or something like that, the decision of the jury stands. I mean, yes, a jury's decision has been overturned by a judge, but that'd be very case specific. So if that's a matter that's to be decided by a jury, then no, the judge's role is not as impacting on that case. But if it's a bench trial, let's just say, and there is no jury, can your algorithm work in a way where 99% of the judges would rule in that one way? Possibly, but not a 100% guarantee. So, no, I don't think technology can replace a judge.
So it's the pretty much safe field to suggest to a child to choose as a profession. Being a lawyer.
A judge. A lawyer or a judge?
A lawyer and a judge. Well, judge, I mean, you got to be chosen, right? It's not like...
Because you know what? At the end of the day, if somebody creates a program or an algorithm that ends up damaging somebody else's reputation, well, at least you can go to an attorney to sue the program, individual. Right? So, no, it's definitely a safe profession. I think, while, like I said, certain things may be automated, like the research... You know, the legal research that's involved, or heck, even signing up a client, that can all be automated. You know, you just fill in an application online or whatever. But the
actual process,
the process itself and the application of the law, because like I said, one sentence, you might read it and interpret it completely different than I may. And that's where the law is so unique that it allows for, an argument to be presented on both sides.
Can you see part of an art in your profession?
I think a lot of it is art. A lot of it is art.
The fact of creativity makes a lot of difference in the field. Because the way I come to conclusion that in the next few years that if you're creative or you have philosophical mentality, or you're in computer science, you have guaranteed work, pretty much. So if you create something and you have an artistic part in your field, and you pretty much secured. You're not a robot. I think that's the only way you can say I'm a human.
And that perfectly defines what we were just talking about. How you can read one sentence and interpret it differently. I can read it in that same sentence and interpret it in a different fashion. What they teach you at law school is exactly that. It's called creative argument, right? And that creative part comes from the you have to be able to be creative. You have to be able to be creative in your argument. You have to be able to be compelling. If everything was so black and white, then there probably wouldn't be no purpose, right, for an attorney.
What's your favorite table game? Well, I've noticed you like poker, and I know you as a good.
Oh, I was more like Monopoly or Scrabble or something like that.
Besides poker.
Like, are we talking about card games, or are we talking about
like chess, checkers? What type of? Is it more like the game that you enjoy a company of multiple people, or it's more like thinking, quiet, slow-paced game, like a chess?
I like both. But I would lean more towards being around people and socializing during the game.
Do you feel that being a good player actually helps becoming a good professional?
A player in what? Like any game?
Games. The fact that you can predict your opponent moves actually is helpful in your field.
Most definitely. I'm not a great chess player, and I know that, for those who actually know chess, who understand chess, they actually are very smart, right? And they are able to apply themselves in more ways than one in their own profession. So if you're a really good chess player and you're an attorney, then I'm pretty sure you're going to make for a damn good attorney. If you're a chess player and you're a doctor, I'm pretty sure you're going to make calculated decisions that probably going to be more beneficial, right? So yes, being good at something like that, like chess, would definitely, I would say, improve your ability to be better at So I think teaching kids how to play chess at a young age, I think that's a very important thing. Yeah.
By becoming a professional lawyer and by becoming a productive businessman, what at a younger age you look up to your parents, you look up to adults, but the more you grow, the more you become independent. But we always seek people to look up to, and we have mentors, maybe virtual mentors through books or podcasts or videos, or actual human being that you're able to be in touch with and ask questions about life or running a business. Do you have a mentor? Have you ever had one?
Well,
or a few?
Certainly a few. In the actual field that I'm in, I would say that my mentor was Hike. Because I learned a lot from this business, or about this business from Hike. I just think that he's an extremely talented attorney. Not just because I've worked with him, but the guy really does have an aptitude for this career. This line of work. I think he's definitely, as far as the career is concerned, he definitely was a mentor and continues to be one. I'm the type of guy that I never shy away from asking for help, or asking for guidance. Obviously at some point, if it's something that, should come as second nature to you, then you're okay to make those decisions on your own. But the more you learn, the more you more knowledge that you take in, the better of a better human being you are, and I think it's really important to just ask questions. While somebody might say there's no such thing as a stupid question, I believe that there is, because there comes a point where if you're asking a question that you really should know the answer to, then it really does become an irrelevant question. And I think we've all have fallen victim to that, where we've asked a question that we really know the answer to, but oftentimes learning something new, and I try to learn something new every day, as small or maybe as insignificant as that may be. Gaining knowledge is definitely a good thing. As far as life, I think my mom's been a pretty good mentor for me in very different aspects of life. This is a woman who has always done everything for her family, even working 2 jobs, to save a house or do whatever it takes, So I think, she's definitely well-rounded in that, and I think I've learned a lot from her. Learned a lot from my dad, God rest his soul. The man taught me to be resilient and to be confident in anything that I do. And there was one guy, and you've known him, you knew him, and he was there was no task too difficult for him. Even if he didn't know how to do something, he would still do it, because he just had that natural, the guts to get something done. And I think, resilience is really important. Be able to just be very confident in what you're doing. Even if you make mistakes along the way, you could never let go of that confidence level. You always have to be confident. You have to be as sure as possible of yourself that even if you don't know it, you're going to learn and you're going to get there. I've relied on a lot of friends. I've relied on you for financial advice in the past, and I think it's really important to just surround yourself with as many different people from all different walks of life, right? But to be able to grasp as much knowledge as you can from everywhere, because there's no such thing as you doing everything on your own without the assistance of anybody. Even the greatest minds, even Warren Buffett, even Elon Musk, or all these names, right? Even Jeff Bezos, all these individuals at some point, I'm pretty sure, have had mentors along the way in various different aspects of their life. So, yeah, I've had a few.
Do you see yourself as a mentor, or are you a mentor to someone?
I see myself as an individual that can definitely be approached, and if I can lend any advice to anybody, the sound advice, to anybody, I'm always able to do that.
Should I ask another question, or you want to say something else?
No, so what I was saying is, if anyone were to ever come to me, and that could be a family member, that could be a colleague, an employee, whoever that may be, if I always invite people to ask me any questions that they want, and obviously if I have the fund of knowledge to answer their questions, I'm always there, to assist somebody, because I feel like if I was able to do that, and if I was able to ask a question and get an answer to that, and that helped me, progress, and if there's a way that I can pay that forward, I'll say that way, then obviously I'm always up for the challenge. And it's, I think quote unquote mentor, I don't know if I would consider myself a quote unquote mentor, but somebody that has always been there to help anybody with any questions that they may have. I'm there, and obviously it comes as no surprise that if I'm an attorney and somebody needs legal advice, then that's not really being a mentor, but that is being able to answer somebody's question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Legally speaking. So
being useful for society.
Being useful for society, yeah, exactly.
Not waste.
yeah, exactly.
Are you guys active in community?
We are active in the Armenian community. We are we're active in the Armenian community. I mean, it's a bit of a tough subject, because obviously everybody knows, what happened in 2020 with the war with Azerbaijan. I won't go too much into it, but we found ourselves to be a lot more active in the community. Since then, we've organized a lot of charity events. We've partaken in a lot of charity events. We've done a lot of fundraising, and I said we've helped out the community as much as we can. Probably could do more, right? I mean, everybody can devote some of their free time, towards a better cause, and I think we're no exception to that. So we've certainly have tried to do the best we can.
I've had this conversation with my daughter a few weeks ago, and she had this guilty feeling that she is from the generation of kids that they don't appreciate the things that they have access to. And she had this feeling that, she compared herself with other kids that they cannot afford to visit movies. And so long story short, the conversation went to the point that it's really hard to phrase so you gotta do what you do to help others, but eventually we all donate or active or in community based on our comfort level.
Sure.
And do you have that feeling that you could do more, and do you feel bad that you're not doing more? I don't know if you get the question, but I compared her with with another person. I told her, listen, even if you stay away from everything, even the simple food, and say, you know what, I don't want anything, I'm just gonna sit under the tree and breathe. There can be a person laying in a bed in a hospital and saying, oh, look at that person, he's so lucky he can breathe, and I'm not breathing. I cannot breathe because there's a lot of machines hooked up to me, so I can breathe freely. And there's someone that can envy you and say, oh, he's a lucky person. So do you feel that you should punish yourself for not doing enough, or whatever you do is from your comfort level is good enough?
First of all, you never punish yourself. That's sort of a two-part question. It's a very complicated
question.
So let me
never ask if I've never had that conversation with my daughter, but
so let me try to dissect that. All right. Number one, when somebody does something out of the goodness of their heart, for me, that's number one. That says enough about a human being. But your question goes to the level of, okay, not only are you doing something from the goodness of your heart, but are you doing enough? Can you actually do more? Well, the straight answer to that question is, I don't know, right? Say somebody can donate $10,000. Can they donate $20,000? Would $20,000 be something that they can do? Possibly, right? I mean, if you're a millionaire, right, and you donated $1, someone might turn around and say,
Shame on
Come
you.
on, man. $1? I mean, that's just, if you're a millionaire, you donated $10,000, right? Okay. Thank you for your donation, I guess, right? I guess you can look at it that way. But to turn around to that millionaire and say, well, how come you didn't donate 100,000? Is that a fair statement to make? I don't know. I really don't know. That individual might be a millionaire, but you don't know what's, happening in the background, right? Not to make this about money. I think your question was more about, do you have to feel guilty that you aren't able to do more than you have done? And the straight answer to that is, why should you feel guilty? If you set your mind to doing that, and this is what you did, I mean, if 10,000, let's just say, was your budget for that, then it's your budget. I mean, it could have been less, right? It could have been 5,000. It could have been 2,000. It could have been 1,000. No, but you did 10,000. Could you have done 20,000? Potentially, right? But I don't think it's, somebody should feel bad that they aren't doing enough. They should only feel what they, they should feel that they've done something. Now, whether they've done enough or not, that's really up to them to decide, not for anybody else, right?
So you pretty much do whatever you pretty much do from the comfort of your own life.
Yes.
And your position.
Now, are certain things worth going outside of your comfort level? Sure. I mean, there's situations where you'd say, you know what, even if this is going to put a heavy burden on me financially, I still need to do this, right? There are situations in life that may push you to that level, right? Obviously, nobody feels good about going outside of their comfort level. You've worked so hard to develop your life, to develop your finances, to get to where you are, right? And mind you, you've had a lot of time outside of that comfort level, right? So you worked so hard outside of being in a comfortable level to get to a comfortable level in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then for you to step out of that comfort level, right, back to the uncomfortable level, I guess you could say, it's not always an ideal situation, right? It's not pleasant. Sometimes it's necessary. So if you feel that it is necessary for you to step outside of that comfort level, even for a brief moment, to be able to do that, then you just have to be, you have to be the judge of that. Personally, nobody can tell you, you know what, man, you should have done more. That example that I gave you, that extreme example that I gave you about a millionaire only donating $1, yeah, you're going to turn around to that millionaire, you're going to say, well, really, shame on you, man. I mean, this is not about money, but really, I mean, come on, $1? You might as well have not donated anything than to only donate $1, right? But maybe that millionaire could think that, you know what, any more than $1 is him stepping out of his comfort level. Possibly, but...
So, pretty much the main reason you're actually donating or helping someone is you're pleasing yourself first.
No. There are people out there that do that. There are people out there that would donate because that gives them this sense of gratification that they're doing something. That's not the first thing that I look at. It really is. It never has been. Because do I wish that I could do more? Absolutely. There's been many of times that I wish that I could do more than I have done. That doesn't necessarily mean that I have to feel bad that I wasn't able to do more, right? Because if that is all that I was able to do at that time, then that's all I was able to do. If doing a good deed, whether it's donating your money or your time even, I mean, not everything is about money, right?
Yeah.
You can donate your time to a cause.
Sometimes it's more expensive than donating.
Absolutely,
money.
sometimes more expensive, right? I just feel like, does somebody get gratification? Okay, I'll give you an example. What we witnessed in the Armenian community was devastating. We had a lot of families who were devastated from the war.
Mm-hmm.
We had a lot of families who lost sons in the war, daughters in the war, family members in the war. We had a lot of family members who had sons or daughters, primarily sons, who went and fought in the war and lost both legs, and now they had to have prosthetic legs, right? Retrofitted so that they can walk again. And if I donated to a cause that was able to get that individual a leg to stand on, I certainly didn't feel good about it. I just felt that it was my responsibility, because if I'm able to do something about it and help this young man walk, I didn't do that first thinking, oh, look at me, I just did something. I should feel good about myself. No. I just felt that at least I'm at the level in life where if I can do that and this person can get a chance to walk again, that's really just the least that I can do.
Yes, and I've done it too, but deep in my thoughts, I've had this feeling like I'm pretty much buying an excuse for a guilty feeling that I wasn't there and I wasn't able to actually go and fight with money to say, hey, listen, at least I donated to stuff. So it's eventually at the end of the day, you get to a point that you're still doing it for yourself, to kind of kill your guilty feeling.
Was your ability not to go fight a choice of yours that you made?
I could have. A lot of people did.
Okay.
Right? And same thing with it's a very tough question. It's a dark spot that nobody wants to face and actually sit in front of the mirror and talk about it. But
so then, I know this is you typically asking the question and I answering them, but why didn't you?
That's the thing. Why didn't I?
Why didn't you? No, but do you have an answer to that question?
No, I don't.
You don't. Well, I'm sure a lot of thoughts
I was looking for an excuse to compensate with something.
Here's one thought. You have a family, you have kids, you have a wife, you have a business, you have things that solely depend on you.
A lot of people at the war died.
That without which would crumble, right? Okay, maybe crumble is not the best word, but without you would suffer. So yes. So in the back of your head, yes, you could have gone, you could have fought. It's your homeland. You could have fought for your homeland, as with many of us, at the risk of potentially jeopardizing everything else here that you've built.
Comfort.
So, but again, it's not just the comfort. It's you employ so many different people. You have your family to you. I mean, you have a base here that you would have otherwise had over there. So if you had the same thing that you have here, but you had it over there, might have been a little different, right? But so many people rely upon you and your ability to sustain that the decision to actually just drop everything and then go and fight probably made that decision even more difficult for you to make. Yes, everybody has a choice. You had a choice. I had a choice.
That's the thing. I mean, when even the simple donation and tithing and all the fact, I mean, it's calculated based on your level of comfort.
Sure.
So you prefer not to step outside of your comfort zone to help someone, unless it's someone that you care a lot.
Right.
But eventually it comes to a point that you're pleasing yourself and your ego.
There's an element.
It's hard to face it. I mean, I've had these thoughts and especially during a war and during tough times when you see someone struggling and you're like, you help if you have that ability to do so, but you help to the limit of your comfort zone. Because it comes to a point that you actually realize if you help more than that, you might even damage a person by granting him not the safety net, but the hammock to lay down. So there's a lot of pros and cons, but again, all these thoughts are coming from based on the conversation with my daughter. I was trying to explain to her why we do what we do and why should we feel guilty or not to feel guilty about it. But eventually it comes to a point that nothing matters anyways, and just do whatever you feel right. And if you're doing something and you're not hurting anyone, and you're productive and you have a little bit of surplus of energy, time, or finances, and you're changing somebody's life towards better, then it's good enough.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. Because imagine the reverse effect, that you do so much that you end up, you said you might end up damaging them, because then you create such a safety net for them that it's no longer a safety net, it's a hammock, right?
Yeah.
But think for a second that by you doing too much, you might actually end up hurting yourself, right? There's stepping out of a comfort zone, and then there's doing so much that actually ends up hurting you. So obviously, it does nobody any good for you to end up hurting yourself, right? Because now, instead of one person suffering and getting the help, now you start suffering, and now you're in a worse position, right?
So you become a burden.
So now you become a burden on somebody else. So the whole point here is, and I think in Armenian we have this saying, I don't know how to translate it, but basically water your tree first, and then worry about water, and if there's enough water left over, water somebody else's tree. I don't know.
I think Jewish tradition has that thing too. They say, fill your cup and overfill it so the excess can fill up the other cups. But you gotta fill your cup first.
Right.
And whatever flows over, you pretty much is enough to help someone else.
And why do you do that? You do that because you always want to make sure that you're in a very strong position, right? Your cup is full so that you can help others, right? In a capitalistic society, like we said, you always want to do as much as you possibly can to progress, right? If you're going to do that for reasons that are just out, if you're gonna be a capitalist, and if you're gonna make all that money and you're gonna make it just for yourself and not share the wealth, right? Then I don't think that that's the right way of living, right? So the whole point is fill your cup or water your tree, whatever analogy you want to use. You do that because by doing that, it makes you stronger and gives you the ability to fill the cups of other people, right? Growing up, it was always the reverse effect. I would always help others as much as that I possibly can. Help this family member, help this friend, help do this, do that. But then I realized at some point that I'm not
strong enough.
I'm not strong enough. Yeah, I'm still helping others, but I'm not strong enough. I'd like to be able to be strong enough where I don't ever have to depend on anybody else's help, right? Even though there's no shame in that, but as a human being, you want to be as strong as possible so that you don't have to rely. And I don't mean by asking for advice. That's not asking for help. If you're asking somebody a question, or if you're trying to find get some sort of advice on something, that's not getting any help. That's basically seeking advice. But being a burden, sometimes life presents its challenges where you're unfortunately may be in that position where you have to ask for help.
I think all of us been there,
right? But always find a way out of it, and always find a way to pay it forward, and change your life for the better, so that you can become strong enough and then be able to help others. So my approach, changed over the years. It changed. It changed from me always, volunteering and always helping somebody out to, hey, let me strengthen my foundation, right? Make sure that my foundation is good, and then be able to help out if, in time of need. The war in Armenia, I think, shook everybody up because there was a lot of people who didn't have a strong foundation, who were still, who did help, right? There's a lot of people who had a strong foundation and still were able to help. So, circumstances like that in life happen, unfortunately, and whether you have to step out of your comfort zone or not, just never feel bad about it. Just know that if you truly feel that you did the best you could, you can sit there, look yourself in the mirror and say, I did the best that I could under the circumstances. That's fine. That's all you need.
What's your biggest fear as a businessman and as a human?
Failure.
In business or both?
In both.
Failing your reputation, failing your name.
I forget who said this, but I think somebody said, there cannot be success without failures along the way. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking about those type of failures. I'm talking about such a catastrophic failure that you can never bounce back from that. Failing is a part of success. You have to fall to be able to get up. I mean, I don't think anybody's ever done this and continues to do this. You're going to have to have your downfall. You're going to have certain decisions that you've made in life, some business decisions you've made in life that didn't turn out so well, right? We'll call it a bust, right? This was a business, but it was a bust, right? And then you have decisions you make that pick up, that do well. So, failures business-wise along the way is okay. But I think my biggest fear is not being able to bounce back from a failure.
I see. And how do you guys, when it comes to failure, I guess the biggest reality check for all world was COVID. That kind of tested everyone who's strong enough. What was the main thing that actually kept you as a business in the field, and how did you guys kind of survive? By staying organized or having a backup, or what was the main thing that you guys did? And the second question is, now the economy is still in bad shape, and if another COVID happens tomorrow, do you think you will be able to survive as a business?
I think the economy is in worse shape now than it was when COVID broke out. COVID, this was like it didn't just affect one set of people or one group. It affected everybody across the board. I think maybe only Zoom was one of the businesses that profited from,
and Netflix,
and Netflix, right? Yeah, those two businesses probably skyrocketed. But everything else just, I mean, it suffered substantially. Luckily for us, we did do, some remote work, but again, we found ourselves in the office. And, for us in our industry, we're not in the industry of selling a product, like you walk into a store, you buy something, you walk out, you're done. No, ours is a service-oriented industry, which means before COVID, we had cases that we're processing, and even after COVID, we were still processing these cases. These cases didn't just disappear; they had to be worked on. I think our loss of business, we did experience a little bit of loss of business because obviously when people were not driving, were not leaving their homes. Sad to say, but there was no car accidents, there was no slip and falls. So we did have a loss of business for a few months, but because we are a service-oriented business, we still had a bunch of cases that we're processing along the way. So that got us through all of 2020, all of 2021, and well into 2022. Did we feel the after effects of COVID? The brief couple of months that the country, or I don't know how many months was it? I think it was from like March to August or June or July, something like that. So for like 3-4 months, that did translate to a little bit of a reduction, I guess you could, yeah. But we were able to bounce back relatively quickly because we had so much work from before that we just never stopped.
And does current economy affect your business? Like, do you feel downfall now or no?
Potentially. I mean, if you look at gas prices, right? They're pretty damn high.
Less people driving.
Less people are driving, right? Again, if we were strictly to look at that aspect of it, can that affect the business? Yeah. I don't want people to think that, hey, I'm here just because. Them to be in accident. No, that is not how it works. I mean, there are so many attorneys out there, and there's, unfortunately, accidents happen, right? But accidents are not the only thing that we do, right? There's other, there's labor law violations that happen that have nothing to do with accidents, and those people need representation. There's different injury-causing events. So, in today's economy, I think it just affects overall. The cost of living is what I think. The cost of living has gone up. Gas prices up. You're not, $100 does not buy you nearly as much stuff as it did a year ago, and certainly not as much stuff it did 5 years ago, right? So inflation is definitely taking its toll. Whether that affects our business as a whole, I really can't say statistically if that is the case. I might be able to give you a better answer 2 years from now.
When I see you next time?
When I see you next time for round 2, I can say, hey, that question you asked me, if whether or not in today's economy, and I might be able to give you a better answer. But it's tough. I mean, it's tough for a lot of people.
The reason I'm asking, my previous guest was in transportation business, and when you're in a consumer market, the prices on goods are actually affecting you a lot, but yours is in the customer service field, and it's not like hiring a lawyer is not want, it's need most of the time. So that's the reason I'm asking, like how the downfall in economy affecting the law department, law field. Do you feel it as dramatically as in consumer part?
No.
Or no?
No.
Makes sense. And when it comes to hobbies, what do you love to do?
Man, I love going to the beach, and I love playing basketball if my knees work as well as they did. These are things that I really enjoy. I might not be good at it, but I still enjoy it.
Still enjoy it.
I don't know. I guess just spending time with family. I'm not a artsy crafty kind of guy, so I don't do arts. I don't do any things of that sort. But hey, more power to people that do find interest in that, because that definitely is a good thing to have. Maybe I should, right? But just I think going out, socializing with friends, family.
You like cooking?
Well, there you go. There's one thing I do enjoy. Yeah, I actually do like
barbecues.
And yeah, I do like my barbecue. I did make for the first time in my life, and it actually did turn out to be pretty good. Lobster mac and cheese.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that was interesting. But I like barbecuing, and I actually like the process of that goes into it,
not the end result, right?
Yeah, the process itself is interesting for me.
So
let's see what else.
Poker. You're like, I know you're a good poker player, and we played a few times.
How could you possibly know that?
We played a few times.
Is that what it is?
And
I'm all right.
Have you ever had this feeling or vision or whatever it is? I don't know. I don't say I was high when I had this vision, but but the dream I've had after the tournament was that we're sitting around the table and betting on our own luck. Whoever is lucky, besides the knowledge, you're actually proving with your money that you're luckier than somebody else. So the whole game of poker was, I saw it from different point of view. I was like, bro, I'm actually betting with my own money that I'm luckier than my opponent.
That's a weird
and
dream,
I'm betting on my own luck.
Okay, that's interesting.
It was weird. And I've had another... It sounds stupid. It's totally away from running a business, but I've had...
let's explore this. Go on.
I've had this conversation. So it was 3 guys sitting, and a friend of mine is asking my other friend, so how do you do that when you run ads on Instagram, you get so many views and likes? And he's like, well, it's simple. You gotta do a few tricks so the algorithm can pick you up and pretty much recognize you and put you on the top. And you just gotta have enough clicks and likes and comments. And at right that moment, I had this vision. Like, imagine 3 guys 2,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago sitting around the campfire, and one is asking another, he's like, hey dude, how you do that? And anytime you go for a hunt, you always come with the prey. And so many times we go for a hunt, we come back empty. And this guy is starting explaining, like, well, before I go for a hunt, I always pray for a god of luck, and I always light up a candle for a god of hunting, and then I jump in a corner twice, and then I'm always come back lucky. So I've had this feeling that whatever we are going through, this artificial intelligence and algorithm and social media, it's becoming new way of understanding life. But eventually we used to call them gods, luck, angels, and all that stuff. We just name them different.
Mm-hmm.
So the same vision I've had when I was playing poker, like, am I actually, do I still have that lucky angel sitting on my shoulders and I'm paying with my money that he's stronger than somebody else's?
That's
so
interesting.
Stupid question. And there's no question. It just, it's just the feeling I've had. Have you had feelings like that? Or you've never been that high?
Yeah. Let me let that.
I guess I'm getting old.
Let me let that digest a little bit. Well, probably not to that extreme, but yeah, I mean, I've had. Oh, this is it. I've had weird feelings. Oh man. Yeah, I don't know how to respond to that. But at the expense of not leaving you alone, in your thoughts, I'll say sure, yeah.
Why not?
Why not?
I don't know. It's just something stupid that came up on my mind. The reason I'm sharing it with you is because we were at that poker tournament together, and I don't know why I've had that.
Well, while on the subject matter, let me just briefly tell people about the poker tournament. So that poker tournament was organized by a foundation that I'm involved in. That's the ADF. That's the Armenian Diaspora Foundation. And again, that foundation was developed. Oh, it was developed many years ago, but it was reborn, I guess you could say, after the war. And obviously, that foundation was established to help injured soldiers or wounded soldiers in Armenia, as well as needy families who were displaced from the war, and all proceeds from that tournament has actually gone to that cause. And we hold tournaments twice a year, and I think the next one's coming up in November. So I hope that your luck angel or whatever it is going to be on your shoulder because we expect to see you there in November of this year. But yeah, it was a fun tournament. Obviously, all for a very good cause, and I of course appreciate you being there.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun, and I'm looking forward for gatherings like that all the time.
Yeah.
So besides cooking and not inviting me, and invite.
Well, I wanted to try it out first to see how it worked out, man. I'm not going to give you a bowl of
and playing
I don't
poker,
know what the hell that is. Be like, what the heck is this, right? I wanted to make sure that this was actually something that was tasteful, right? So I wanted to, I wanted to make sure that it was, but I owe you a lobster mac and cheese, right?
Okay.
It's definitely.
It's on record now. That's it.
It is. It is. No, definitely.
So what else? How else you like to spend? I mean, your alone time. Like you meditate, you read book, or you just sit and stare at empty window. How do you enjoy being alone?
Well, that just depends on whether I'm sleep deprived. If I'm sleep deprived, I'm sleeping, man. I gotta get some
being up.
Alert.
I'll
go on a hike once in a while. I like going hiking. I actually enjoy, even if it's by myself, I go hiking. I'll go to different trails. Like I'll go to. I'm sure you've been to a few of them. Fryman Canyon, Runyon Canyon. Melviny Park up in Granada Hills area. I mean, these are just different. I just enjoy walking and hiking. That really helps me clear my mind. Higher elevation. You're just not worried about anything. That's all it is.
Do you have a feeling that with age you're taking your life differently, and you appreciate basic things more than and not as granted as before?
Most definitely. when we were younger, obviously we were a little bit careless, right? We could drink and we could smoke and we can, just we're thinking that we're above all, we could just basically do what pleases us. But over the years, you realize that physically your body starts taking a toll, right? So I'm definitely less tolerant to alcohol now. I don't drink as much on occasion. I don't smoke. I feel like, watching out for my health is probably right now on the top 3 things in life for me right now. Probably the most important one outside of family and things of that sort. But I feel like I'm still not doing a good job at that, and I need to work on that and get myself into a healthy state because, we've definitely taken a lot of things for granted in life, but as you do get older, you feel like you can't do that anymore, and you definitely have to look out for yourself. And
do you understand? I mean, I started experiencing those thoughts and feelings myself, that I have a tendency of reading and more philosophical movies now, books and watching movies more from philosophical point of view, not from the actual emotional point of view. Do you get that feeling too, that you're more like you're looking at things when it happens around you from more philosophical point of view, not from like jumping into fire as a young?
Yeah, I try to understand what really is the meaning behind something, like if you're talking about movies, right? So the director or whoever it is, right? They're trying to portray a story. I don't think a lot.
Let me tell you this. Sorry for cutting, but before, when I was watching a movie, I was actually watching the movie and what's going on around. Now I'm actually paying attention on the actor's game.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't need that. I want to see that.
Yeah.
So I just catch myself on the fact that I'm actually looking at the movie and thinking about what's going on behind the scenes.
So, and that's exactly what I was trying to get at is, sometimes we just watch movies just for the entertainment value of it, right? Oh, it's an action-packed movie or it's a comedy or whatever the case is, right? But sometimes you're watching a movie and you're trying to understand, because I'm going to be flat honest with you, man. I don't think movies are not what they used to be nowadays. I think a lot of movies nowadays are very superficial. That they're just there, just to get the crowd. I mean, I don't know. I don't enjoy movies now as I did back then, right? Because back then, going to the movies, or at least movies that I used to watch, they actually had some meaning. I mean, this is no knock on Hollywood, but I just don't feel that the movies are there. I think Netflix series definitely have improved
the quality
dramatically, right? I mean, sometimes we have actual series that are much better than a movie would be. Like, for instance, Breaking Bad. Have you seen Breaking Bad? Arguably one of the best series, or that I've ever watched. I'm sure people have that same feeling about other shows that they've seen, but I just feel like the movies, the quality of a movie. I'm not talking about the animation and all this other stuff. No, just the quality of the movie and the message that movie is trying to portray. I think that has gone down, whereas shows on Netflix or whatever, Hulu, in some respects have gotten. I actually enjoyed watching every single episode of Breaking Bad, right? Because I got so into it, right, in terms of the
even though you're a lawyer and you know he was breaking the law.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, of course, and that's probably why Jimmy McGill, man. But I get where you're coming from. Is that when you're looking at when you're watching a movie now, you're trying to see what's happening behind the scenes, sort of a thing, a more philosophical approach, as you said. I can see that. But I really have to get into the movie to be able to understand what's, really happening behind the scenes. If that movie is superficial, then I just lose interest altogether. I don't really go that deep into it. But I see where you're going.
So it's another way of entertaining yourself and spending free time.
Oh yeah,
watching series.
Oh yeah. If it's a good series like Breaking Bad, or I don't know. I mean, back in the day, The Sopranos was a really great series. I enjoyed watching The Sopranos, not because of its cinematic,
just acting game.
Yeah, acting, but just the storyline or whatever. I mean, it was very well done. Shows like that, or movies. I don't know.
And when it comes to traveling, do you enjoy more visiting places, like historical places, or popular places, fun places? Well, I mean, the reason I'm asking is 24-year-old kid, when he flies to Paris, is going to Google the best club in Paris. Not the best museum in Paris.
Yeah.
So what's your style?
Oh, definitely historical. Definitely historical. And sometimes that historical could also be the most popular place as well. Fun place, right?
Yeah.
You go to Paris, you're going to want to go see the Louvre. You're going to want to go see Notre Dame. You're going to want to go see Eiffel Tower, things that... But,
how about seeing places from the point of view of locals? Do you enjoy that type of traveling?
Yeah. And in fact, because I'm a foodie, I like food, right? So going to places, local places, sometimes you're actually going to end up finding the best meal in town, right? You're not going to find it at the
fancy
restaurant. Exactly. Some hole in the wall might actually be the best food. Let's say if you're in Italy, some hole in the wall kitchen might be better than some of the fine restaurants that they have. And the way you find that out is by going local, right? Yeah. You know what I like when I travel, and sometimes it's not possible, but I'm more of hey, I'll rent a car and I'll drive myself wherever I want to go versus going on a tour.
Mm-hmm.
Tour, it's like, all right, we're first going to go here, then we're going to spend an hour here, then we're going to go here. I get it. Yeah, you get to see stuff there, right? But I'm more of the type of guy that I'll rent a car and I will drive. I will veer off the highway and I'll, go down this road that, I want to just check it out, see what's there. Even though I know, like, the popular and fancy stuff is there, I already know where to go there, but I like to explore.
I actually realized that the best experience you ever get going somewhere is the second time.
Sure. That's possible.
When you actually analyzed what you've seen and you checked all the popular places and then you're like, all right,
now I know exactly what I go
see what I want to see myself.
For sure. And speaking of that, I mean, I've been to Japan and yeah, we saw a lot of popular stuff, but I would love to go back because there are certain things that I know that I want to go again, right, and see, and I know that I will enjoy it just that much more, second time around, for sure.
Yeah.
That's true, yeah.
And how about preference? Laying on beach or...
I ain't gonna have a pina colada, man. I know you're all about pina colada.
It's my favorite drink too, bro. All right, besides Moscow, what else you like to drink?
Fine cognac, a good whiskey. I mean, I enjoy good whiskey and cognac, but
Mostly whiskey.
Yeah, whiskey's good.
I like whiskey too. Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of things that we have in common.
Common, yes, yeah. But you were saying
the beach or museum.
I mean, we talking what kind of a beach? And
you're in Spain.
Can't I do both?
You don't have much time.
Okay. So I have enough time just to lay on the beach.
Yeah, because if you do half, you're not going to get full experience. You lay down on the beach for an hour, you're not going to get the feeling of resting. You spend an hour in museum, you're not going to feeling of seeing things. So you have a day, but you got to spend either on the beach or in a museum.
Well, let's put some context to this. What's the weather like?
Come on, bro.
I don't know, man. I mean,
the lawyer part of it.
I can't, man. It comes to me like second nature, man. I don't know. I guess it depends on what I feel like. I mean, if I really want to rest, and man, that's a weird, difficult question to answer. But fine.
Driving
Beach.
or flying?
Well, let me answer that first question. Beach in Spain.
You said you don't know. I thought that's the answer. That's why. The beach. All right. Driving or flying?
Meaning me
Going
driving?
somewhere.
Oh. Probably flying. I enjoy flying.
Skydiving or spa?
I'm overweight for skydiving, so I'm pretty sure I don't know what that feels like. But I did jump off of that Vegas.
Yeah.
What is that? The stratosphere.
We survived that.
Yeah, we did survive that. That was fun. Spa.
Whiskey and cigar or
whiskey and cigar.
Option two.
I don't.
You know that joke, right? Somebody's asking a guy, it's like, what do you prefer? Option number one, staying with your wife at home during COVID for a year, or option number two is like, number two, option number two. So that's where we'll end.
Yeah.
So
no, whiskey cigar for sure, yeah.
Classic music or hip hop? Or any other style?
Man, I mean, again,
depends on the mood.
Depends on the mood. I enjoy classical music, but it really just depends on the mood. If I'm trying to get pumped up, then not
workout music.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
I can't lift weights listening to Vivaldi. You know what I'm saying? It's just not gonna happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have two more questions before we wrap up. Let's assume we have few views, or we have few listeners, and there is some individual decides or about to decide to start his own business. What's your number one advice for him?
Do your research. Whatever business that you go into, never jump into it without at least doing research and at least understanding the demographics of that business, the pitfalls that business can have, and there really isn't just one advice. And I would say do your research, and that could mean ask questions. Find out everything there is to know about that business, because at the end of the day, if you're the one that's going into that business, then you're responsible for making sure that that business thrives. You cannot go into business and then expect somebody else to carry the weight for you. So just the only way you can do that is to be, prepared, and know as much about that business as you possibly can.
And would you suggest that person to start business now in this tough economy, and use it as an advantage for beating competition, because not many people can survive in tough economy, not many businesses, or wait a little bit until things stabilize?
The words of Warren Buffett come to mind. And this is regarding stocks, but I think he says something to the effect of...
The tides go back?
No, I think the one where he says, when others are fearful, be greedy.
Mm-hmm.
When others are greedy, be fearful, or something to that effect, right? So, and it's a tough economy, and if others are fearful, right, then you want to take advantage of that and, be greedy and actually, do it, without, worrying. And again, I mean, it has to be a calculated move, right? You can't just say, hey, I'm putting $100,000 into a, I don't know.
So go for it.
A cigar lounge or something. I mean, I don't know. That might not be the smartest thing. But yes. Go for it as long as you've made your calculated risks. Yeah.
Well, Vahe, thanks for stopping by, and it was an interesting time that I spent with you. And for our viewers and listeners, Vahe Shakhgeldyan, partner at BMS Law Group. Whoever decides to use their services, very professional group. The guy's been in business for over a decade, and all the necessary information of the company will be down below. And for us, don't forget to like, subscribe, click all those buttons to keep us up and running, so the god of algorithm can notice us and pick us up. Well, thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
All right, bye.